And I could remember the toy fair, I don't know, 4 years in, maybe five. And I came home to my husband and he was like, "How was it?" I'm like, there's still a lot of people who might not like me, but they all respect me now. And it was such a good feeling that my hard work was paying off. My hard work, my team's hard work.
Welcome back to the show. Hope you're all having a great week so far. So here we are in the fourth quarter of 2024. And if you took a look at the She Speaks holiday study, the shopping study that we just released, you may have noticed that 65% of the women who took the study told us that they had already started shopping for the holidays. That is just such a high percentage of people who are already out there thinking about what should be on their gift list. So we started thinking about, how are those gift lists determined? How are the hottest products that are going to be on the shelves of the stores? How are they determined? And we had the wonderful opportunity to talk to an expert on this topic who really understands the toy industry in particular. We have on Laurie Schacht. She is the chief toy officer of the Toy Insider, which is the number one resource for parents and grandparents and any gift giver who is looking for the best toys and gifts for kids for not just the holiday season, but all year round. And we got the inside scoop from Laurie, who has been in the toy industry for over 25 years and is a real insider, understands what influences the industry. And we got a chance to talk with Laurie about, how are those hot items determined? How does the industry decide these are the toys that everyone's going to want this holiday shopping season? So Laurie talks with us about that. We talk about her experience working with bloggers from all the way back when, and now working with influencers and all types of toy industry. And we talk about some of the great work that she gets to do day in and day out. What are some of the hottest upcoming toys, not just for this holiday season, but taking us into 2025. We get that inside scoop for Laurie. I really enjoyed my conversation with Laurie. She is so insightful about the industry. She's a real expert on the toy industry. And I am grateful that she gave us some of her insights and talked with us about what is hot and what's coming up next. So with that, I'm going to let you hear my conversation with Laurie Schacht of the Toy Insider. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, you and I crossed paths years ago. And I remember meeting you, going to a Toy Insider event. I want to say back in 2015.
Right.
I remember thinking, wow, Laurie has the job that every kid dreamed of having when they get older. How did you get involved in what you do today? And let's talk a little bit about the evolution, but take me back. How'd you get started in this business?
Well, to go back in time, I never thought I'd be here. That was a completely unexpected journey for me. I had gone to Toy Fair when I was a kid because my dad started the magazine, The Toy Book, which is still there today. We're celebrating 40 years this
Wow.
year.
Congratulations.
Business to business. Thank you. And it's a business to business publication. So the publication has been around forever. I can remember being a little girl in a toy building, handing out copies of the Toy Book, which was tabloid then, in every single showroom during Toy Fair. So, I knew the industry, but that was not anything I ever thought I'd really be involved with. It wasn't like I grew up saying, that's what I want to do. Along the way, something happened with my dad. He's still around, but he was out of the business. And he called me up. I had stopped working for a number of years. I was raising my three daughters. And I was starting to look at going back to work when he said, I need you to come run this business for me. And I knew absolutely nothing about running a business. I told him he was crazy. He pursued, and suddenly I found myself walking through the door of a business that at that point, 20 some odd years ago, was actually doing very poorly.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of things had happened, and I was coming in. He promised he'd help me, and that lasted all of 2 days. He's like, I've been gone too long. You're on your own, kid. I'll
Wow.
tell you that the magic was finding some really good people, many of whom are still with me today. And I think that is the magic to any success story. It's not one person, it does take a village. So we started rebuilding the toy book back. Today, I have an amazing editor in chief that the industry just adores. His name is James Zahn. So it's become his baby. But what happened was, after a couple of years, actually after a year and a half, 2 years of getting the toy book back on its feet, I said, there are lists that come out from every retailer for the holiday season. And why are those lists out? Well, whether it's Target or Walmart or Amazon, their list is based on the toys in the store that they need to sell, right?
Right. Right.
But we are connected to the entire toy universe and we sell nothing. Why
Mm,
aren't we doing the list? And that's
mm.
really how the Toy Insider was born. We came up with this idea. It was my idea. I asked the team that I was working with at the time, what do you think? Everyone was like, all right, this sounds pretty good. We got a couple of companies to advertise in this guide we were putting out, and we were off to the races.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to ask you some questions here because
Okay.
going back, I cannot. So was your dad in the toy business before he started the toy book? Or, I mean, how
Yeah.
did he start this business?
All right. So when I was really little, among other things like being a taxi driver and a magician and a mind reader, he had a little show he used to put on in the Catskills.
Wow.
He was also a toy. He was a toy distributor. So he was on that end and a buyer. So he was in the industry, but not publishing magazine. He ended up getting into sales, space sales, advertising space, started on the floor covering side, and then started with a publication called Toy and Hobby World.
Mm-hmm.
So started working there, became the publisher, and then that company was sold and he went on to start the toy book.
Got it. Wow. And then, okay, so you come on to the toy book based on, at your dad's behest,
Yeah.
and you get in there and you're like, wow, dad, there's a lot going on here. There's
I
a
was like,
lot that
I was like,
needs to
yeah,
be
thanks,
fixed.
Dad. Thanks for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And luckily it was truly the support of my husband that kept me going, because there were a lot of long days and crying nights of, I can't do this. The industry, especially when I started, I know we're going to talk about some changes and stuff, but, very male at the beginning, not
Mhm.
anymore. Sort of that old boys club, still some of that, but, not the same way. And I could remember the toy fair, I don't know, 4 years in, maybe five. And it came home to my husband and he was like, how was it? I'm like, there's still a lot of people who might not like me, but they all respect me now. And it was such a good feeling that my hard work was paying off. My hard work, my team's hard work, it was 24/7. It became almost the only thing in my life. I was living and breathing this business.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I understand that. I understand that's the heart of the entrepreneur can be very quickly filled up
Yes.
with business. But
Yes.
I'll circle back to that later, but I'd love if you could talk just briefly. So you've been in the toy business for a long time
Yep.
and you've seen a lot of changes.
I have.
What do you think is like the biggest change in terms of, where we are now versus, the last maybe 5+ years before that?
When I started, in this business, we saw tons of little mom and pop shops. In fact, we used to have a separate publication called Specialty Toys and Gifts as well. And we ended up just merging it into Toy Book because of all of the consolidation. It's very hard to find your neighborhood toy store. We
Yep.
still have some like smaller chains like your Learning Express, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same as that true independent store. There's some, but it is just a small picking compared to what used to be out there. And the same thing has happened to the toy companies. The consolidation has been crazy. You know, the bigger
Right.
toy companies buying the smaller ones. Sometimes it's interesting because sometimes they buy those companies because they love the brands they have. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and they want to expand it and grow it. And then sometimes they buy it because they're almost buying shelf space. They're like, all right, we
Mm.
don't need this anymore. Let's buy the company, take the brand off the shelf, get more of our stuff on. So it's a really interesting thing.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, you know, a couple of things. Like I said, it used to be truly a man's world, and the women have taken over the toy industry. There's an organization called WIT, which stands for Women in Toys. We've been very involved with for years now. Myself and a lot of my team members have gotten awards over the years from this organization, and the men in the business support it. So it really is an amazing group of women that support each other, help each other, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah. Well, okay. So interesting, but not surprising, I guess, that there's been consolidation in the industry. You said both at the retail level, meaning like the smaller independent stores, the toy stores,
Right,
probably, either going out of business. I don't know if they were acquired, but really probably the big retailers that are the ones that are selling the toys these days. I'm assuming too, once the big box retailers or the wholesale clubs in particular, like the
right.
Costco's of the world and Sam's Clubs, they probably ended up taking on a lot of that too, because I know you can't walk into one of those stores, especially as we're nearing the holidays, and not see toys everywhere.
Huge business. And, you know, and I failed to say that over this course of time, we've seen Toys R Us go away. They're making a
Mm-hmm.
small comeback, but it's not the Toys R Us that we grew up with or we took our kids to. And
Mm-hmm.
the other thing to mention that is huge is that when we started the Toy Insider, one of the criteria that was important when we were looking at toys to choose for the different gift guides was that it needed to be available to consumers everywhere. That's not
Mm,
an issue now because hello online shopping, hello
yeah.
Amazon, hello online shopping. So that didn't exist when we started that. You know,
Yeah.
online shopping was pretty like, well, maybe I'll get it and maybe I won't. It was not second nature like it is now. I mean, think about how many times a day you pick up your phone, you order something, it's there tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, obviously there's still the issues I know where people are trying to get that, really popular toy for the holiday and still
Mhm.
can't seem to find it. How do you predict what is going to be the hot, like say, we're coming up on the holiday season now. We actually, She Speaks just did a study, and 65% of our participants in the study told us that they've already started shopping
Wow,
for their holiday presents, their holiday, gift list, which
I'm
is,
impressed.
yeah, I think it's just they're looking for deals, and Amazon's been having those kind of October deal days. So people are just looking for the deals. So if you think about the fact that we've got a new holiday season upon us, how do you determine what's going to be hot? How do we how do you like sort of break that down so people can understand what the process is?
Well, I have to tell you, some of this is just not easy because we really do have to play all day. No, but all kidding aside, so a lot of different ways. For one thing, we go to every single toy show, trade show, our own events. So that's a look, and we get to see toys very early. How were those toys coming to market? Well, a lot has to do with the trends that we see. So, trends, think about clothing trends. There's something called the Decora Kai. It's a big Japanese trend in clothing right now. Now you see the Decora girls from the friendship bracelets. They had kind of gone away, and we started to see them trickle back in 2023. But this year, Taylor Swift and TikTok has made it a huge popular trend. So we're seeing them from
Oh.
companies like Horizon making those fabulous friendship bracelets all over again. And then, of course, what the kids are watching, whether it's videos, TV, movie, and really, I'm always asked, what is the hottest toy? And my answer is, even though we have a hot 20 and we give you 376, I think this year, hot toys for all ages, it depends on what your kid likes. But this year, I will tell you that there is a hottest, everyone's on a waiting list, and it's Miss Rachel. Spin Master just came out with a full Miss Rachel line, who you would only know about if you have a baby or a very young toddler in your life. But everyone is on waiting lists trying to get these toys. So we see that and we know that it's going to be hot, hot, hot.
So Miss Rachel, I happen to have heard of that. And I think it's
Okay.
because I'm on social media and people just seem to be talking about it.
Well, that's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah. So if you think about the sources of the insights for you all when you determine what's hot, how much of it is kind of having your ear to the ground with in social media and maybe even with influencers who you have worked with for years? I mean, again, I remember some of the moms who used to blog about toys and, well, family, but toys also were people who were very engaged in what you did day to day. So tell me a little bit about how that factors into what you can suss out as the next hottest product, the next hottest toy.
Well, I'll use Miss Rachel as the perfect example. Our editor-in-chief of the Toy Insider, Marissa Silva, has a 2-year-old who loves Miss Rachel. And when she first, the items were submitted, but sometimes even if they're not, we'll reach out to a company because we see what's happening. We see how people online on these social media platforms are just like head over heels over a product or a product line. So when she said Miss Rachel, I'm like, Miss Rachel, who? because not having somebody that young in my life and I had not seen the toys yet, I didn't really know what she was talking about. And then I started going online and taking a look. And lo and behold, I was like, all right, we're trusting you on this one. And the other editors with little kids were like, Laurie, you have to listen. So I listen to my editors when they are that strong headed because they're 99% right. So here we are. It's made our hot 20 list, and we could have put every single item. We did the Sing and Speak doll. We could have done every Miss Rachel item on it because all of them are that hot.
Wow, that's amazing. And just so for people who don't know, is Miss Rachel someone who was a teacher? How did she, I mean, I know she's a YouTuber that I know a little bit, but I don't know her background.
Honestly, I believe she's got a teaching background, but I don't know a lot about her either. I know her toys, and her toys are fabulous, and they all teach the kids not just learning skills. Like she's got this set of like number blocks. Think about the old fashioned wooden blocks that has some color and a number on it. But hers have expressions on it, have things for kids to do like jump or run or stomp, different colors, different letters, different numbers, and then cards for kids to find patterns. So really turning an old classic into a brand new way for kids to engage. Wow. She does songs, she does rhymes. She really gets kids to listen, to use their memory skills. So, she's got it all there, and the parents are loving it.
So in thinking about, we just talked about like an influencer, basically. She started as a YouTuber and built her influence, Miss Rachel. How do you think influencers have impacted the way that the toy industry is marketing and accessing, consumers?
So it's really interesting because when this began, and I'm sure you're going to remember, it was just bloggers. And I don't want to say just bloggers, but it was just a new thing. People blogging about toys and everything else in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we've seen this evolution, Facebook, then TikTok, finally TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, now TikTok, of course, especially for the toy business. They love TikTok. So they are a huge part of toy companies' marketing budgets now. So, they used to have marketing budgets for advertising, for TV commercials, depending on the size of the company. There is a whole separate budget for influencers. They have their
Mm.
own name, the influencers. And even us, we've just launched a piece of software this year called Funfluential. So we're leaning in as well. And basically, companies and just for the toy and baby market. So it's not even open to other companies, but companies can come to us and get a subscription where they can use our software that's filled with what we call funfluencers. They're influencers who deal with family and fun. And then they are directly connected to them to run programs, and the software tracks everything that happens for them. So it's a nice big time saver, but it is a huge and important part, and you can't leave it out anymore. And it's not going
Mm-hmm.
to go away.
I think one of the things is I remember thinking about why these moms who were starting these blogs and building these blogs that people would go to. And this is again back in the day when people used to go to somebody's blog to read their
Right.
posts, right?
Right.
Very proactively doing that. It was clear that seeing a mom who you follow, who has kids that are around your kid's age, going through the same life stage, hearing her recommendations for what she's buying, it's just so powerful. And it's
Yep.
not surprising that that has been the thing, regardless of the blog format. This is still the same idea that people are following these these influencers, and their recommendations weigh heavily. So it's
Yes.
not surprising that the toy industry is seeing that. When we started this conversation, you have that job, right? That people just like kids probably dream of when they're little, right? To be
Right.
involved in the industry you're in. Any interesting or memorable stories that you can share? Maybe one that is your favorite of being involved in this industry?
There's so many funny things that have happened over the years. I think my favorite story happened on the Today Show. Big Hugs Elmo. Do you remember Big Hugs Elmo?
Yes.
Okay. So I was showing a group of toys, hot holiday toys, and I was with Al Roker for that particular one. So I always like to engage my anchors because it makes the segments a lot more fun. So I pick up Elmo and I talk to Al about Elmo and say, and Elmo wants to give you a big hug. And I didn't realize, especially with heels on, that I was kind of the same height as Al, because I'm focused more on the toys and,
Mhm.
my messaging and coming across good on air. And, the Today Show will always make me a little nervous. I want to do everything right. So I push Elmo against him, thinking he's getting a hug. And as I pull him away, Al says, well, that was more like a mugging than a hugging.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know. And I was a little flustered. And I got through the rest of the segment. And then I got back to my office and watched the segment. And I literally mugged Al Roker with Elmo. And then, of course, I write to my producer, who I still work with today. I love her. And I'm like, oh my God, I just watched this segment. I'm so sorry. She goes, don't be sorry. Everyone was hysterical laughing. It was awesome.
Oh my God. Well, that is a good story because, Al Roker seems like such a nice guy, not one you'd want to mug, or Elmo in particular.
Very funny. Very funny. I had a moment of true embarrassment, and I was glad that everyone caught the humor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. Having a sense of humor about it. Well,
Right.
if you think about what we should be looking out for next in the toy business, what should we be keeping our eye on for the next trend? Maybe thinking about 2025.
So it's very interesting because my team was just at the LA previews, which I missed because I had my daughter's bridal shower. So
Ooh.
yes.
Well,
So
congratulations on that.
thank you. Thank you. I'm making my first wedding. I have 3 daughters.
Hmm.
So I have not. Usually I am right up on what's coming out next year. All I know is they came back so crazy excited saying that next year's toys are going to just blow everything out of the water. But I can't tell you really what they are. What I can tell you
Oh.
is there are certain things that are pretty constant. Pretty constant is we care about everyone's wallets. So
Mhm.
many years ago, one of our hot lists became a 12 under 20 list. You'll continue to see that. And toy companies will always be conscious of what they can make that is really super fun and engaging for kids, but at a great price point. So we've
Mhm.
seen that over the years. I'm sure we'll see it continue. Analog free. We call it analog adventures this year, but toys that engage kids without using a screen. And while there are some
Mm.
great screen toys, like we have an AI teddy bear this year, and I'm sure we'll see more AI appear in toys next year. Parents still know that their kids spend an awful lot of time on the screen, in school,
Mhm.
out of school. Let's face it, we're all sort of addicted. So getting them off and getting them to just good old fashioned playtime has become
Yeah.
meaningful. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that too.
Oh, wow. Well, and you know what? And it's so interesting that it's like you've almost got like the two sides of the spectrum there. You mentioned that AI is up and coming, obviously, across every category.
Correct.
But not
That's for sure.
surprisingly, I'm sure it's within the toy category too.
Yep.
And so obviously that has more of the analog and the technology component. But to the other extreme of parents' desire to keep their kids off of screens, to hear that there are some toys that are on that front. It's so interesting to hear that you're going to get maybe both ends of those extremes. You
Right.
know, a lot of the technology and then completely technology free. So
Correct.
something for everyone, right?
You know what? That's always been our goal that no matter what, and because adults, adults are the newest kids these days, and it is a
Mhm.
huge trend. You'll continue to see that too. Even grown-ups have figured out how much fun play still is.
Ooh, I love that. So adults are getting more involved, going back to trying to find games, toys, things that would engage them. Um,
Exactly.
and maybe getting away from the screens themselves, right? Maybe this is a way for them to get away from those screens themselves.
Yep,
Wow.
absolutely.
Wow. All right. Well, Laurie, thank you so much for spending this time with us. If you could tell people how they can follow you, follow maybe all the work that you're doing, what is the best way for people to do that?
The Toy Insider,
Yeah. All right. So the Toy Insider on all the socials.
thetoyinsider.com, and then, of course, Toy Insider on all the socials.
Well, thank you so much. I know that this is a crazy time of year for you, and I really appreciate that you took the time to talk with us today.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you're an influencer or a brand that wants to work with us, please feel free to email us at info@shespeaks.com. Until next time.